Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 schedule preview. So, we have had some announcements at Blizzcon that concern the Overwatch League and the way it will play out for our 2020 season. Obviously, if you've been around the block in terms of the Overwatch League, you will know that the Overwatch League is going on the road in 2020. It will be in the form of the homestands that we saw last season, but it will take place across the globe for every single team in the league. Obviously, there are 20 teams in the league now. There are no additional teams for this season of the Overwatch League, or this up-and-coming season of the Overwatch League. That was announced quite a while ago. So, then we also look at the setup for the league, and we've also had confirmed, and this was quite a while ago, that there will be no stages next year as the league goes on the road. Also, we already knew the setup for the divisions for next year. It's two divisions, or conferences. You have the Atlantic Conference and the Pacific Conference, but next year they will be divided up into two divisions within those conferences. So a total of 4 divisions. You will have the Pacific Conference East and the Pacific Conference West, and you'll have the Atlantic Conference South and the Atlantic Conference North. For the teams that are in these divisions, for the Pacific Conference East, you will have the Chengdu Hunters, the Guangzhou Charge, the Hangzhou Spark, the Seoul Dynasty, and the Shanghai Dragons. Basically, all of the teams from Asia. And then in the Pacific Conference West, we will have the Dallas Fuel, the Los Angeles Gladiators, the Los Angeles Valiant, San Francisco Shock, and the Vancouver Titans. In the Atlantic Conference South, we will have the Atlanta Reign, the Florida Mayhem, the Houston Outlaws, the Philadelphia Fusion, and the Washington Justice. And in the Atlantic Conference North, we'll have the Boston Uprising, the London Spitfire, New York Excelsior, Paris Eternal, and Toronto Defiant. And to be honest, that Pacific Conference West division looks like an absolute division of death for the Dallas Fuel, unless they make some real big improvements for next year. And again, you can see some divisions are stronger than the others. The Atlantic Conference South, for example, when you look at that one, you would expect the Philadelphia Fusion and the Atlanta Reign to do fairly well, and the other teams perhaps not as well. Although, looking at the moves being made by the Houston Outlaws especially, that could be a different story when it comes to next season. Anyway, moving on. We have some other details about the schedule for next year, because obviously we have the things about the All-Stars and stuff like that, which we didn't know. We knew all the fixtures, we knew when they would take place, but we didn't know really too much about All-Stars and the actual format for every game. We do now, though. So, each team will play a total of 28 total regular season matches, which includes 2 matches against each team in their conference, and then 1 match against all of the teams outside of their conference. So, for example, the London Spitfire will play 1 match against the Dallas Fuel, but they will play 2 matches against the Atlanta Reign. Even though London are in the Northern Division of the Atlantic Conference and the Atlanta Reign are in the Southern Division of the Atlantic Conference. The regular season will consist of 26 weeks, with all matches being played over weekends, and will include a break for All-Stars and a MidSeason Tournament between weeks 12 and 13. A new MidSeason Tournament, by the way. Each team will host at least 2 home weekend events during the season, with an additional 12 events, 3 per division, collectively hosted by teams in their home territories. Tickets are now available for most of the events. I know London Spitfire's home weekends are going on sale probably the day this video is going up, which I believe is the 6th of November. I think. It was meant to be a different video today, if this is going up on the 6th of November, but this news came out not long before I'm making this video. Anyway, moving on. Match structure. Now this is where the change happens, and if you've watched the World Cup recently, it's pretty similar to that. New in 2020, teams will play regular season matches in a 1-to-3 format. So last season, we'd actually play all four matches, right? All 4 maps. Next season, that won't be the case. So, you won't have the games where a team's already 3-0 up, and then you're playing that 4th map just for map differential. That won't be happening next season. It's the 1-to-3. So if a team goes 3-0 up, that's the end of the match. Each match will open with control, and then teams will play hybrid, assault, and escort in an order that rotates across matches to ensure that they are played evenly throughout the season. So that means that we don't see more of certain gamers than we do of others. So in an order which, if they are in that order, say control, hybrid, assault, escort, we might see a lot less of escort than any of the other modes. if there's a lot of 3-0s in the season. We hope there aren't a lot of 3-0s in the season, but if it was to go that way, this kind of helps that out. If a match reaches the 5th map, only control maps will be played until a team gets 2 3-map wins. After every 2 maps played, teams will get a quick break to strategize. This makes sense. Control maps are not drawable, so if you kept going to other game modes, you could have more draws, which means the matches will become longer and longer and longer. If you only play control maps after the 4th map, then you're certain to get a winner in at least 2 maps or so. So that makes sense. Although it will mean that some matches will be shorter, considering we're going to a 1st-to-3 format. It will mean shorter, perhaps, matches than you would expect. Like, take an example from this gone season. Say it was the Vancouver Titans taking on the Florida Mayhem in Stage 2 of this season. That would have been a 3-0 pretty quickly, you would think, and it wouldn't have been a very long match. In order to keep map variety fresh, so we're talking about map pools and patches now, we'll be changing out the map pool 4 times during the season, so normally they would have done that anyway because there would have been 4 stages. All control maps will be played throughout the season, so the map pool for control maps won't change. They'll all be in the pool. And each map pool will feature 3 maps from each of the other game modes. A new map pool will be used for the post-season. Throughout the season, we expect Overwatch to receive several game patches. Yeah, we always know how this happens. Overwatch League matches will take place on the most updated patch, but the rollout of those patches will be somewhat delayed from the actual game to the Overwatch League to ensure that they are able to properly deploy them and provide teams with a window to practice on them. So, yeah, that's kind of a given for the Overwatch League at this point. They're never really on point with the patch, if you see what I mean. They're always kind of maybe a month behind in terms of patches because you've got to give these teams time to adjust. They can't just be dropped straight into it. It would not make it unfair, but it would be a big shift to just change it in the middle of what were used to be stages or whatever. That they'll give that time. Although there aren't stages now, so it will be perhaps changed at a weird point. All-Stars and Mid-Season Tournament then. After week 12 of the season, there will be a break for the All-Stars festivities and a new Mid-Season Tournament. All-Stars, it features the league's best players and blah 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 blah, but this time there is a prize pool. The All-Stars events will have a total prize pool of $250,000. That is the first time, I believe, All-Stars has had a prize pool. So, things are about to get serious in the All-Stars. Interesting. We're going to be, they're planning some 1v1 actions and another obvious talent takedown, which should be all cool. This is what's interesting now. The Mid-Season Tournament. It will feature the top 4 teams in the league. The top team from each conference and then the next best 2 teams by record from either conference. In order to manage logistical requirements for teams around the world, the teams will qualify based on their record over the first 9 matches in the 2020 season. Those teams will play in a single elimination bracket with the top seed picking their opening round opponent. So that's interesting. That's kind of a replacement for stage playoffs, I think, because we're not obviously going to be seeing stage playoffs this coming season because there are no stages. So this is a midway teaser for what you might get at the end of the season. And again, I'd imagine there'll be money at stake. So that's a good one. There won't be many teams in it, but it should be interesting. The postseason then, when it gets interesting, we get talking about overall playoffs. So, 2019, pretty darn good, and I think anyone can agree with that. They had a lot of positive feedback, they're saying. I think that's all good. The Zed performance was so much better than DJ Khaled, and it all seemed really pretty good. So, the 2020 season is going to follow a similar format. There's going to be a 7th through to 12th seeded play-in tournament, and then 2 of those teams will go through with 7th and 8th seeds to the overall playoffs, which will feature the 6 top seeds and those 2 people coming through the play-in tournament. The prize pools, so for the mid-season tournament, that's the one that's taking place around the All-Star weekend, or the All-Star festivities, it's not a weekend anymore. The mid-season tournament, the first place team will get $500,000, the second place team will get $250,000, and the third and the fourth place teams will get $150,000. I said the total prize pool for All-Stars was $250,000, and then the season playoffs, first place will get $1.5 million, second place will get $800,000, third place will get $500,000, fourth place will get $300,000, fifth and sixth will get $200,000, and seventh and eighth place will get $100,000. That has actually changed compared to last season. It's actually, the spread is changed slightly, so the 7th and 8th place teams are actually going to get half of what they got this season. So our 7th and 8th place teams this season were Seoul Dynasty and London Spitfire. They got $200,000 this season. Next season that'll be $100,000. 5th and 6th, they got $300,000 this season, which were the Atlanta Reign and Los Angeles Gladiators. They would receive $200,000 in 2020. And then 3rd got $450,000, which was the New York Excelsior this season. That goes up to $500,000. The Hangzhou Spark, who finished 4th this season, got $350,000. That's going down to $300,000. Second, Vancouver Titans, they got $600,000 this season. That's going up to $800,000. And then the San Francisco Shock, who won it all, they got $1.1 million this year. That's going up to $1.5 million. So, yeah, it's kind of, they rebalanced it, so the further down you finish, the less you're going to get compared to previous years, but the higher up you finish, the more you're going to get. I don't know, I think the balancing was kind of okay, but hey, if they want to change it, they want to change it. But one thing is to say, I think that prize pool has gone up slightly. It has gone up slightly, and obviously they've kind of comboed the prize pools you got from the stage playoffs into the mid-season tournament, and then what's left over has kind of gone into the All-Stars total prize fund. So, that is it, I believe, for the news we've had around the Overwatch League 2020. This all took place on a Watchpoint season preview panel at BlizzCon. It is available on highlights of it are available on the Overwatch League site. If you go to BlizzCon's website, I can't remember whether you had to have the virtual ticket for it. I can't remember that, but it's well worth checking out. A few things that is like a need-to-know sort of thing in terms of off-season key dates, right? So, November the 11th is when all the 2019 season agreements officially end. So any players who are not tied down by then become free agents and no longer assigned to their teams on that date. Then, on November the 15th, that is the deadline for all teams to have a minimum of 8 players signed under contract. Currently, London Spitfire, to name one of them, do not have that. That announcement surely has to be coming pretty soon. They don't have 8 players on their roster. They cannot field a roster right now. Whereas some teams, like the Dallas Fuel, they've got 11 players signed. There's a lot of teams making a lot of moves in this transfer window, and we'll be keeping up with it every step of the way. I think we're done here. So, it's looking pretty darn awesome. Overwatch League 2020, the Roundup will be coming back pretty soon. We'll be doing a preview of all 20 teams when that comes to perhaps January. I'm thinking about that right now. And then we got the transfer Roundup. That will continue going on until the end of this month, because obviously there will be no transfers after the end of this month, because the transfer deadline is on November the 15th. So, that's going to be it for the Overwatch League Roundup for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then!